Reports are now showing that Canelo Alvarez could fight and has agreed to fight Billy Joe Saunders after Yildirim. Imagine that. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego in the back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, y'all know what to do. Smash the like button. We working. Mike Coppinger of The Athletic, he posted out this tweet, says sources, Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders have agreed to a deal for a May fight on DAZN. 3 168-pound titles up for grabs. Fight will land in the U.S. on May 1st or May 8th. First, Canelo will have to beat Avni Yildirim and emerge uninjured. As I always say on my channel, Ego Stradamus strikes again. Very predictable movement from Canelo Alvarez. You know, of course, the Canelo Man fans, they're going to find any way to justify and act like this is the fight that they want to see from Canelo. When Billy Joe Saunders failed drug tests, Avni Yildirim failed drug tests, Canelo failed drug tests, yet they're granted these opportunities to face Canelo, right? Meanwhile, guys like Caleb Plant, Demetrius Andrade, Jamal Charlo, they've never failed a drug test, and they're not given the opportunity to face Canelo Alvarez, right? David Benavidez, who has failed a drug test, but it was for cocaine, and it doesn't justify it. But when he had the WBC belt, you never really seen this eagerness to unify the division. But now, when Canelo's path includes Caleb Smith, Yildirim mandatory, and Billy Joe Saunders, now he wants to unify the division and to become undisputed. Very predictable. I predicted this move. As soon as the fight, I was hopeful in December when they were talking about Canelo versus Caleb Plant. I was hopeful that that could happen. But as soon as it didn't happen, I knew Canelo was back to his old ways. Now, the thing you have to understand is this. Canelo, in freeing himself from Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions, the leash has been taken off, and in ways it hurt Canelo, although it helped him. I'm not saying it didn't help him because now he doesn't have to split the pie with Golden Boy. But in a very simple way, this has also hurt Canelo Alvarez, because at the end of the day, you no longer have that whole layer of Golden Boy. Because there were people who I used to do videos and say, man, I wonder why Canelo's fighting Liam Smith and James Kirkland and Amir Khan, and they would always blame it on Golden Boy. They would say, oh, it's Oscar don't want to, Oscar's protecting him. Canelo wants to fight the best, but it's Oscar. But that layer of protection has now been removed, and you are now sleeping with somebody with the STD with no condom. Because you can no longer say that Canelo Alvarez is not the culprit because he's no longer with Golden Boy, and all of his moves look eerily similar to the types of fights and the types of fighters and the region of fighters, or the region in which they come from, that he was fighting with Golden Boy in recent memory. So I don't know. You guys let me know in the comment section if you love this fight. Again, like, there's so many, and I'll probably have to break this down in multiple videos for boxing to understand it. Because the funny thing is this, in old media, they're gonna use, oh, Canelo, he's doing what's noble for boxing and he just wants to unify the division. He has to go after the belts. But the funny thing with that whole statement is this. We all know Canelo is an established star, so the belts don't make him. We know he's a good fighter with or without any belts. So much to the point that Canelo had a long-standing beef for about a year and a half or so with the WBC, in which he refused to accept any of their belts. They put up a Huicho belt in the Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight, and he refused it because he was mad at Mauricio Suleiman in the WBC for how they positioned him or put pressure on him to fight Golovkin, and it made him look bad. So now all of a sudden, Canelo is all about belts, even though we know belts don't define him, because he took that stand against the WBC where he refused a belt. Like he said, I don't need the belt. I'm not gonna. If I'm not mistaken, he said something very close to the effect of, I will not be like pressured by artificial deadlines, meaning the sanctioning bodies don't own me. They're not going to be able to impose some authority or rules that dictates who I fight next. So he didn't fight Gennady Golovkin that year, and he gave Golovkin the belt by not fighting him per the rules, and that created a beef between the WBC, which they have later rekindled and buried the hatchet. But the point remains, Canelo was willing to have this standoff, a public standoff, a noted standoff over a belt and a belt company, the WBC at the time, because he knew he was bigger than the belt. Furthermore, now I'm cooking y'all. Furthermore, you have Canelo Alvarez, who is more accomplished than Ryan Garcia, although Ryan Garcia is popular and he's branding himself very well. Ryan Garcia is the mandatory. He's in the same gym as Canelo. They have the same trainer now, Eddie Reynoso. Ryan Garcia is the mandatory for a black fighter in Devin Haney. And he's now saying that it's not about the belts. This is what Ryan Garcia, look at and listen to his recent interviews. He's saying it's not about the belts. The belts don't matter. The belts don't make me. The only reason I'm wearing this belt is because it looks good on me. But it's not about the belts. It's about fighting the fights for the fans. So your own little brother, Ryan Garcia, who trains out of your gym, has a completely different outward look and outlook on what it means to a belt. So old media, you see, they're in the crosshairs because you have Canelo Alvarez, who his fans, so keep in mind it's the same gym. Canelo Alvarez, his fans are saying that Canelo, he should be fighting Yildirim, the mandatory that nobody wants to see, because he needs to keep his belts. And then he wants to fight Billy Joe Saunders because Billy Joe Saunders has a belt from fighting he fat, she thick, or whoever for the WBO, and he's a champion and he wants to be undisputed. But Canelo said the same thing at 160, that he wanted to be undisputed. But then there were black fighters like Jamal Charlo and Demetrius Andrade that he would have had to went through and go through in order to become undisputed. But he forfeited that whole opportunity and decided to move up to 175, which nobody told him to do, and never fought Charlo, never fought Demetrius Andrade, two American fighters, and all of a sudden forgot about the need or the want or his previous statements to the media, ESPN Deportes, about wanting to be undisputed at 160. Now all of a sudden he wants to be undisputed at 168, and it's going to encompass fights that really don't need to happen against two people who failed drug tests, Avni Yildirim and Billy Joe Saunders. Instead of, if you're going to fight someone that failed a drug test, there's a better fight in David Benavidez. He failed for cocaine. Fight him. That's a better fight. And Canelo's trying to fight Cinco de Mayo week, May 1st or May 8th or whatever. Why not fight a Mexican-American who failed a drug test and he's a beast? You know what I mean? And cocaine is not really a PED, I guess, unless you use it the night of the fight or something as a stimulant. You know what I mean? So the other guys failed for PEDs and anabolics and stuff, and Canelo himself failed a drug test. So it was very predictable, this Canelo news. He left DAZN and sued them and sued Golden Boy, but look at who he's fighting. He's not fighting the fights that people want to see him fight. And again, I already know how the game goes. The Canelo Radical Man fans, they're going to say, oh, he's fighting for belts and legacy, so he has to fight Billy Joe. He has to fight his mandatory. But his own little brother, Ryan Garcia, is saying belts don't matter. So how is a 22-year-old kid saying belts don't matter, but Canelo, who has all this stature and is supposed to be the face of boxing according to old media and pound for pound #1, the belts matter so much to him, he has to fight fights with Eddie Hearn fighters and more European fighters and British, English fighters that people aren't really checking for. So best of luck to Canelo. That's my honest thoughts per usual. Use my link, get ESPN Plus. It does help the channel when you guys click on that link. Just let me know what you guys think of Canelo's fights. The Yildirim and the Billy Joe Saunders, this is looking like when he fought Amir Khan and Liam Smith. It's a very similar year. And I seen old media and some of the reporters and stuff, they're acting like we should be happy that we're not getting fights that most people probably would have sequestered, but we're supposed to be happy just because Canelo's being active, because he may fight 2 times this year, 3 times this year. Whoopity-doo. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.